Hello, welcome back once again to Living with Autism. My name is Michael. Thanks for joining me. Well, we're going to head a different direction. Last time we were a little bit in a series that we're starting called Life and Labels. I talked a little bit about my road to diagnosis. Today I want to kind of switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk about the problems that I have with the current ideas surrounding autism. Why I feel like we are looking the wrong place, or trying the wrong things, or just approaching it from the wrong direction. I was going through and doing some research and looking at some stuff, and I just found myself getting frustrated. And I hope this is not a gripe session. I'm not looking to gripe about this. Again, I hope to sort of raise awareness for all of us to say, okay, what is autism? How do we approach it? How should we approach it? And so I guess what I look at is I see the challenge of, I feel like we get two different stories. They tell us we have a disorder. Again, I have level 1 Autism Spectrum Disorder, it's called. It used to be called Asperger's, but they tell us that, and then they turn around and they tell us, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. They tell us that neurodiversity, which is an interesting term being used for a whole number of things, even including autism a lot of ways. They tell us that neurodiversity is beautiful, but then they spend all this time, all this energy, all this money trying to fix us. And I feel like we're just coming at this the wrong way. And I think neurodiversity in this idea is a good idea, because I have Autism Spectrum Disorder, again, level 1 Autism Spectrum Disorder. I'm autistic, but I'm different. And there's other people who may or may not have a diagnosis, but may or may not be similar in some ways, but different in other ways. And so we can't try to tackle the problem the same way. But the problem is the way we're trying to approach this problem, that we're trying to fix things, that we're, as if they say, you're not broken, but then they try to fix it as if it's broken. I referred to last time how I did a Google search for living with Asperger's, and it was all about, and the thing I found was written by a young autistic man, and it was some good stuff, but again, it was all about like, hey, do this, don't do this. It's like trying to make us normal in some way, so people look at us and don't say, what's wrong with that person? So how to behave in a way that's normal. I did a search today. I was going through and I was, sometimes it's a struggle for me. And so music can be a wonderful thing to help sort of release and help me relax. And I found a song, and it was just really like doing it for me. It was really helping me. And I found a way on YouTube now you can like loop songs. So I'm doing really well. And so I looked up and I said, hey, how does this work? Autism music therapy, I looked up. And what I found was just a bunch of information about, hey, how autism music therapy does or doesn't. They're finding it doesn't work well in helping autistic kids like socialize more normally. And basically they're trying to help create flexibility and creativity through music to help autistic kids be normal. And yeah, it's important for us to be able to relate. But the idea is that the way that neurotypical, the way they call them, non-autistic people is the way I usually refer to them. The way that non-autistic people interact and relate is normal, is good, is healthy. And the way that autistic people do so is not. But as we saw in a couple of videos ago, in the first video on this channel, talked about a study they did at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, that there was, using a diffusion chain, the game of telephone, so to speak, where you pass information from one person to the next, that there was no difference really between the way autistic people translate, the success rate, I should say, in autistic people passing information down that diffusion chain. That's the scientific name for the game of telephone. And the way non-autistic, neurotypical people do the same. The only challenges, if you look at the graphs, I don't know how statistically significant it is, but the autistics actually were slightly better in many cases. The problems came in when autistic person and a non-autistic person had to pass information on. Either way that transfer went, that's where the problem came. So you see, I look at it and I say, the way I look at the world, the way I try to relate, the way I do all these things, there's nothing wrong with them, I think. I think we have to recognize and realize that for the most part, sure, I might have bad attitudes, bad ideas, bad thoughts. I may have a lot of negative different things. But my basic approach at the world, the way I do things, it's not necessarily wrong, it's just different. And so there are ways and times where, yes, I need to learn just in a community way how to have a two-way conversation better, how not to monologue, how to read signs of people. These things are important in order for me because I care about other people. But the idea is just basically about fixing people. And I watched a video that came out in November 2019. It's a TEDx talk video from a lady, I forget her name, but there will be a link to the video in the description, about her ideas and thoughts and experiences with autism. She's actually, she has high-functioning autism, and she has a PhD and is an autism researcher. And she did her own study. She's from Australia. She did her own study about how money was spent in Australia on autism research, and I think it really accentuates the problem that I'm seeing here. And she found these numbers. She found that over 40% of the funding went to genetic and biological research. Basically, how do we prevent autistic people from being born? How do we fix this problem? Find out why they are the way they are, and how do we figure out can we prevent it in some way? 20% of autism funding, I have to look down here a little bit, I have some notes, sorry, went to research in investigating like treatments for autism. So they're trying to find autistic people and make them act, as she put it, a bit less weird. How we look more normal, how we fit in a little bit better. And I don't know where the rest of it went, but only 7% of the funding went to helping autistic people, services to help us. How do we live? And this is important because studies are suggesting, and I think that the numbers might even be slightly higher, but around 1 in 50 people are autistic. And her information has, and I shared some information a couple times ago about unemployment and underemployment, but her research had that 60% of autistics were either underemployed or unemployed. 87% have a mental illness. I don't remember if I had 87 or 89% we talked about. A diagnosable mental disorder. Autistic people are 9 times more likely than the general population to die by suicide. Autistics have an average life expectancy of 54 years. So these are problems, these are challenges, yes. But only 7% of the research was going to figure out how these 1 in 50 people who are already autistic, how to help them live and cope and fix these problems. Not the problems of, oh, you look weird, you can't interact, but fix. Why are they unemployed? Why are they underemployed? Why is there so much anxiety, so much other mental health issues? Why are these things going on? And we're really ignoring these issues. And I think this is so important. We need to change the ideas of other people and even ourselves about what it means to be autistic and how we go about fixing these things. There is a problem, okay? When it has 9 times the suicide rate, when there's 87, 88, 89% mental health disorders, when 60% or thereabouts under or unemployed, all these, yes, there's a problem. But the question is, how do we go about fixing this problem? And I'll give you a bit of an example of why I say this. I'm left-handed. And so that presents some interesting challenges. Again, my neighbor's thumping around. The guy next door is cutting metal on his saw. So I'm sorry if you're hearing this stuff in the background. I'll do my best in the editing process to remove most of those noises best I can. But so I live in a right-handed world. If you are right-handed, you don't know that you live in a right-handed world. But I am left-handed and I recognize. And so I do a lot of things right-handed. I golf right-handed because it would be easier to find clubs. I play the guitar right-handed rather than left-handed. It's easier to pick up anybody's guitar. It frankly looks rather weird when you see someone playing guitar left-handed. I'm not going to try Jimi Hendrix and play it like backwards or something the way he did. But so you learn to adapt. But there's also things, just the way you open and close a refrigerator oftentimes, the way you open and close a faucet or a toothpaste, or so many different things, the way the pins are at a bank. Oh my goodness. Maybe you don't do this anymore. Maybe you just use your fingerprint for everything, and maybe people don't go to a bank anymore because of the current situation and because of the advent of technology. But when you at least did go into a bank, and in Ecuador, a little bit further behind technologically in that sense, what was available, you go into a bank and they have a pin, right? It's attached to that little chain. You try to sign it left-handed, a lot of times it's attached on the right side and the chain is too short. And so where do you do it? How do you sign it? Right? The way we write left to right. And so my hand just naturally goes across what I write. And I used to get all the time as a kid pencil marks. And so we live in a right-handed world and I'm left-handed. And I've had to learn to adapt, and it causes some interesting stuff. It maybe causes some interesting extra creativity and some interesting extra neural connectivity, because I'm having to function in some ways ambidextrously, because there are some things that kind of have to be done right-handed, even if you do them with your left hand. Don't get me started on scissors. But so I have to figure out how to do this, but at the same time, as a left-handed person, I can tell you, hey, make the chain a little bit longer, and now a left-handed person, it doesn't matter that it's attached on the right side. And so how do we help make the world more adaptable to those around us? And that's the same thing. We live in a non-autistic world. 2% of the population, let's say it's as much as 5% because of severe underdiagnosis. I believe there is some underdiagnosis, but let's just say it's 5%. Doesn't matter. That's a small population. That's less than the number of left-handed people, I'm pretty sure. Maybe about the same. But so we live in a neurotypical world, in a non-autistic world. And so we can't change the world and make it autistic and make it function the way that we autistics maybe want to see it. But there's a couple of things that we can do. First, how do we understand how the world is autistic and how the world is not autistic, where those struggles are? And don't try to make left-handed people right-handed. Don't take an autistic person and rap them on the knuckles every time they put the pencil in their left hand, so to speak. How do we help these people adapt, understand where the shortcomings are, where we need to fill in the gaps between autistic and non-autistic, the same way we might need with left-handed and right-handed, and understand where some simple changes are. Where in society can we sort of make the idea of lengthening the chain for autistic people so that they can reach it with their other hand and fill out the deposit slip, sign that check in a way that's easier for them. And again, I'm using an illustration here, metaphor for left-handed and right-handed, but I think it works. And so I would like to talk about that, to explore that at times, and help us to, I would like to sort of change all of our paradigms about what it means to be autistic or any of these other things that are out there. One, yes, we do need to help people when they struggle. High suicide rates, short life expectancies. We need to help. These are important things to fix, but we also need to take a bigger picture and not just look, how do we make these people fit in? How do we prevent this situation? But how do we help these people? How do we give them the tools? And how do we, as non-autistics running the world, how do we make the world a little bit easier to live in for people that aren't like us? And man, we could go on a whole topic about how that applies to probably to race, to social statuses, to all these things. How do we see the world and make the world a little bit easier for those around us to live in, and not try to force it to what we like and what we want? And I hope that as individuals, as a community, as a society, that we can help, we can start to make some of those steps to make life easier, more enjoyable, more fruitful, more successful for autistics and non-autistics and all the realm of neurodiversity that exists in our world. Well, thanks for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Until then, take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.